Welcome everyone to this session, this workshop session called Azure API Management, a maturity model for successful adoption. My name is Fernando Mejia, and I'm a senior technical specialist working at a team that we call Global Black Belts. This means that we basically work with customers around the globe, especially in my case, around the Americas, Latin America, North America, and we help customers, create API strategies, centralized API gateways for their customers and for their whole company. So we have been doing this a lot in the last year and a half. Thanks to COVID, one of the things that has happened is that everyone has started creating APIs and web solutions for their customers. So this has grown a lot. And we want to share with you a workshop that we have designed, especially dedicated for Azure. But also there's another part that we want to share with you that we call a maturity model. And this maturity model, we think about it like technology agnostic. So it doesn't matter what API gateway solution you are going to use. Probably there is some value here that we can provide for you. Okay. So let's get started. So what's going to be the agenda for this session? Okay. So first things to set the expectations correctly. This is a workshop session. First, we're going to do a very brief introduction about something that we call the maturity model, how to guide the process of implementing an API gateway pattern inside your company with the best practices in mind. And then we're going to share, how these practices can be thought in your company with an asset that we call the Azure API Management Workshop, and how we can train your company or how you can train your peers with assets like this. So it's going to be two parts. First, we're going to talk about the maturity model, and then we're going to dive into the workshop. Just be aware, this workshop, we normally do this workshop with customers, partners, and also our field in 2 sessions of 4 hours. Okay, so it's a very complete workshop. So in this case, I'm going to share the material with you. All the instructions are provided, so you can do it in your free time if you want. You just need access to an Azure subscription. But also I will be showing the demos and I'll be doing the workshop myself, as demos in the topics that we're going to start discussing. Okay. It's very hard to do the full workshop in 1 hour. That's what I'm trying to say. So the first thing, the maturity model that we created for API management, right? So maturity models are not something new. Basically, one of the most talented consultants out there, it's Martin Fowler, and he's been like a huge proposer, of maturity models. And basically, maturity models are tools that help us assess the current effectiveness of a person or group and supports figuring out what capabilities they need to acquire in order to improve their performance. Basically, when a customer comes to Microsoft or other companies and they tell us, I want to implement an API gateway, centralized API gateway within my company, right? This maturity model is going to help us assess to tell the customer, or you can use it yourself, okay, so basically, I am at this level, and at this level, I need to worry about these topics. Going forward, I will need to worry about these other topics. So basically, it's going to provide a simplified process for something that otherwise will be very complex, okay? We have to understand that maturity models are limited. It's not going to work for all the companies or for all the scenarios, but it's going to be basically a tool where we can tell the teams or customers, you're here, you need to learn this first. And then when you go to the next level, you need to learn these other technologies or processes, okay? So in API management maturity model, and this is based on our experience, right? We have multiple levels, multiple phases here. So for example, we have phase called define strategy, plan, deploy, measure and control, improve operations, and finally optimize and automate, okay? So this is agnostic, but it's ideal for cloud API gateways, right? There's services provided by clouds, which are PaaS, billed just by the hour, and that we can optimize the cost, right? If you're doing on-prem API gateways, you might need some extra stuff here, right? So what are the phases, right? So let's start with the first one, define strategy. So basically, this phase means that there has to be a real business need before implementing an API gateway, right? You really need a business process or something that you want to automate. So there has to be a real need for that, okay? Once that is you find this real business need, the other part is what components are we use, what stack are we going to use, where are we going to deploy this API gateway, like a baseline of the stack that you're going to use. And also if you can do some investigation and recognize, I'm going to use X gateway, X API gateway, and this is going to have some gaps with my architecture. So what are those gaps and how are we going to fill those gaps, right? Normally we need some extra components, open source tooling to fully realize our whole solution, right? So be aware of that, come up with the business needs, come up with a baseline of the stack that you're going to use, and also investigate what gaps does that product has with your architecture, okay? Then comes my favorite phase, and I think this phase is very important because this is the make it or break it part. So normally customers, in the case of Azure, they want to do an API gateway pattern. They just deployed our solution, right? Just deployed Azure API Management, and then they start realizing that things are not working, right? They cannot reach the APIs. The APIs that they have are too legacy and are not supported, or the security, they didn't bring the security team on board, and now they don't have the processes in place to be successful, right? So I think this phase is the most important one. If we do a correct planning, we are going to be successful, right? And this planning involves people. We have to prepare for what roles are going to be impacted, right? What people are going to be impacted by this API pattern solution. Train them, provide some training. And actually, this for this part, the API management workshop is the solution for this part. We train people in this before starting deploying a solution, right? Then, another important stuff, plan the networking correctly, plan the security correctly. Where are you going to deploy this? Do we have access? Can we open the firewalls to access the APIs? Can we open the firewalls for our developers or consumers to access the API gateway? This needs to be planned, right? Security, what authorization authentication protocols are we going to use? What APIs am I going to onboard here? Are those APIs supported? Then, we can get into more complex stuff like how am I going to bundle those APIs? Am I going to do am I going to change the behavior of those APIs at the API gateway level? And then, what processes and teams do I need to have in place for this to be successful, right? So we spend most of the time with customers, in this section to make them really successful, right? And when there's a baseline of this, then we go and deploy the solution, right? And here, multiple things and tasks that we have to do for deployment, then we have to measure and control. We have to be able to see, have observability, know what's happening in the API gateway, know where the error is coming from. Then we can do CICD, automations between multiple environments, high availability, disaster recovery. Finally, we can do some auto scaling and also optimize the cost of the solution, right? Again, this is a maturity model. This is what we recommend to customers, but there might be customers or yourself that want to, at this level of planning, you want to do CI/CD, and that's fine. Okay, this is just a tool for telling customers what's the right way to achieve a good implementation of API management. Okay. So this is the maturity model, that we're proposing. So basically, it's this 6 phases, and of course, this could be an iterative process. We could go back to planning and add more APIs, add more products, and this could be an iterative process. Okay. So now let's get to the workshop, right? So the workshop is designed to solve or help customers plan some of those phases and tasks ahead of time, right? Before deploying, be aware of the networking, be aware of the security. So this is a workshop designed to accelerate customers. In this part of the workshop, we're going to get Azure specific, okay? So this is a workshop designed for the API gateway in the Azure public cloud, okay? And this gateway is called Azure API Management, okay? This workshop is completely public. I just shared the link in the chat. If you want, you can take that and run it with your team. The only requirement is that you need access to Azure, and you can do this with a trial or a sample subscription, okay? So this is hosted in GitHub Pages, and let me see if I can show it to you. Yes, so this is the workshop, right? It's completely public. We work it. If you want to collaborate, it's also completely possible. And we cover most of the topics here, right? How to deploy the Azure API management, right? The developer portal, what functionality do we have there, how to add APIs, policy expressions, how to do the life cycle of the API, observability, and we have all the instructions are provided. So this is a step by step. So there's no need for it's not challenge based. So you can just take it step by step and do it yourself. Okay. So again, the link to this workshop is in the chat. I'm going to share it again just in case. And basically, we have a short URL for this, which is aka.ms APIM Lab. And with this, you're going to be redirected to the workshop. Okay. So this is the workshop that we will be showing right now here. And, this is open for contributions. If you want to propose a new challenge, you're completely open to do so. So, yeah, it's completely open source. If you want to fork it and change that technology, you could also do so. Okay. So let's start from the first phases, right? So first, here we're going to get technology specific and we're going to start discussing about Azure API Management, okay? So Azure API Management is the API gateway solution inside the Azure cloud, okay? It's a PaaS service, so basically there's no subscriptions, you just pay for the uptime, okay? So if you deploy an Azure API Management for one day, it could be like $1.50 per that day, okay? Some important concepts that you need to know. Every time you deploy the Azure API Management component instance, you're going to get 3 components, okay? Where you're going to get a website that's called the developer portal, and this is the API catalog where your users are going to be able to search APIs, discover APIs, try the APIs. Then you're going to get a component that we call the management plane, and this is for the API publishers to add APIs, to change the behavior, and to manage the solution. And finally, you're going to get the heart of the API management, which is the gateway, right? This is the component that is going to receive all the requests forward to the backends and do all this logic also inside. So this is the networking and compute component inside API management, okay? This is some basics here. So now, in define strategy, you have to choose which is going to be your API solution, and you have to investigate, right? What are the gaps of this solution? Can it support my APIs? Can it support my infrastructure, my networking complexity? You have to do some investigation in this part, okay? Then when you get to the planning here, remember planning is very important because we have to plan for people, for networking, for security, for APIs, and also for processes in place, okay? So this is one of the where we have to do a lot of work, right? So here we're going to start looking at some concepts, and we're going to be referencing where is this in the API management workshop, okay? So the first part, in this planning session, the ideal output will be that you can create an architecture like this one, right? This is a template. So basically, this will be my API gateway. What APIs am I going to protect with this gateway? Where are those APIs running? Are these running in Azure? Are these running in my data center? Or are these running in other clouds or other third-party APIs, okay? This is very important, right? What is going to be the security between my gateway and my APIs? And then also, what is going to be the security between my gateways and my consumers? Where are going to be my consumers going to be? Is this going to be publicly exposed? What authentication authorization protocol am I going to use, okay? So this is also part of the workshop. If you go to the workshop, you're going to see this section that says diagrams here, and you can grab this template, okay? This is available for you using Draw.io. So you can go here and you can click here, edit as new, and you can start designing this workshop for yourself. I mean, this architecture for yourself, right? You can start answering these questions. If you want, you can take the Azure API management also and use another API gateway solution. This is completely possible. So this is also enabled inside the workshop for you, okay? So this is one of the most important parts that we need to do in the planning, right? So another part, okay, what APIs am I going to add? So let's say we're going to use Azure API Management. Azure API Management is going to support the following APIs, okay? We're going to support, of course, APIs running in Azure or first-party services. We're going to support REST APIs with an open API specification, SOAP APIs, RESTful APIs with a WSDL, WSDL, and also we can support any HTTP, HTTPS API that we can connect to, okay? From this year, we support now new types of API, WebSocket APIs and GraphQL APIs. So here you have to be really, again, what we were mentioning, right? What are the gaps, right? Suppose you have another type of API. It's like a TCP socket communication with point of sales services or with web service, right? TCP connection is not going to be, you're not going to be able to protect it with API management. Or if you have event-driven architectures where you create a message in a bus or event, API management is also not going to be able to protect that, okay? So this part, it's very important. You have to know what APIs you can deploy, okay? And if we go to the workshop, this is going to show in the following exercise, right? So for example, in the workshop, the first exercise, it's basically we're going to deploy in Azure API Management, okay? Here, for example, everything is set up for you. You just need to click here, this icon, and this is going to deploy the API management for you. Be aware, deploying API management takes 40 to 45 minutes. So in this case, we're going to show everything ready, right? Because we cannot do it we just have 50 minutes and 10 minutes for questions. Okay, so here, we're going to show you an API management already deployed, okay? So for example, here we have an API management and this is ready and fully deployed. Remember, API management has 3 components. This is going to be the management plane, the admin experience. Then we have what we call the, let me show you here, the developer portal, okay? And this developer portal is going to be the CMS, API catalog, where, users can sign out, they can sign in, discover the APIs. Okay, so I'm going to sign in here to show you very briefly this. But this is the developer portal. I'm going to use a personal account in this case. Also, sign in could be done with your identity server like Azure Active Directory, Okta, Auth0, or Ping, if also you're using that. And here, for example, developers can discover the APIs, they can test them, they can subscribe, and this is basically our API catalog, right? Then we have the gateway itself, which is the component that we were mentioning where we're going to send the traffic. Yeah, we're going to call the APIs to this gateway, and this is going to forward to multiple backends, okay? And then basically this Azure portal is going to be the admin experience. So these are the 3 components that we have been discussing, okay? So here, for example, in the workshop, we create the API management instance. Then, we play a little bit with the developer portal. Okay, so the developer portal is not enabled by default. So the first step is that we need to publish the developer portal. Okay. The developer portal can be fully customized, if you want to add your own layers to it, your own styling, your own themes. This is fully customizable. For example, we have some customers that are using the developer portal publicly, and they have changed completely. As a customer that's using our Azure developer portal, and you can see that they have added their typography, their fonts, their styling, and everything. So they can add their own identity, okay? So here we play a little bit with that, with the developer portal, okay? Then we play a little bit with something that we call products. We're going to discuss this later, but then, we get to this part where we are going to add some APIs, okay? So in this workshop, we're going to add 3 APIs. We're going to add the Star Wars APIs. We're also going to add a basic calculator API, and we're also going to add a colors API, okay? So in this challenge, we add these 3 APIs, and then this is going to look something like this in the API management, right? And we're going to come to our API gateway, and we're going to see these 3 APIs, right? We have a basic calculator, we have the Star Wars API, and we have a color API. So let's try calling each one of those to see how it works. So for example, I have multiple operations here. And this, for example, I can try it from the developer portal also. So for example, basic calculator. I can come here. Once I add that API, it's going to show in the developer portal, and I can try one operation, right? So I go here. Event base API. Yeah, we're going to answer some of those questions. Yeah, give me 1 second. Okay. So let me try it from the admin experience better. Yeah, I'm going to try this operation. So I'm going to add 2 values here. And I'm going to choose a product, and I'm going to do the call, okay? And you can see here, I can see the value, okay? So for example, the basic calculator, it's an XML API, okay? Then we have the Star Wars API, and this is a REST API. So for example, I can call this operation, get people. I can test it from the admin experience, but also I can test it from the developer experience, right? So I'm gonna call this get people. Star Wars API, this is completely public. You know, these are sample APIs that we're testing. Sometimes it might happen that those APIs are down. Okay, this is working. So here we can see, you know, and we get the people of Star Wars, right? Then we have another one that's called color API. We have a get random color. And we are also going to try this API that we have onboarded, okay, to the API gateway, and we get a color, okay? Of course, in the workshop, you're going to see how to do this step by step, right? So how to add your APIs, okay? So there's a question, very good question from Frank. Are there any plans to support event-based APIs through API management? So that's a very tricky question because, you know, event-based APIs. So for example, if you put a message or an event on an event store or a message store, and this is going to trigger some processes, API management cannot protect that because that is an async architecture, right? API management works well when there's a synchronous communication, right? You're calling the API and you expect a response immediately, right? So in that case, you know, this async APIs are not going to work very well with the API gateway pattern, right? Actually, service mesh also doesn't work very well if you're doing event-driven architectures, right? Because service mesh and the API gateway pattern expect an immediate response, okay? But, you know, it gets a little bit fussy because these event stores, you know, normally have HTTP endpoints where if a call comes to the API gateway could create an event for you. Okay, so that's where it gets a little bit fussy. So the API gateway can create events. API management can do that, right? But there won't be any response of the event consumer. There will be a response of the event store, right? The event was created successfully. So there's where it can get a little bit fussy. So there are some options there, but ideally, you know, you have to do RESTful APIs, XML APIs, where you're going to get an immediate response from the underlying backend. Okay. So let's get back here. Okay. So this is a little how we add APIs to Azure API Management and some APIs that we add in the workshop, right? So another part of the planning phase is also thinking about the networking, right? Is this API management going to be exposed to internet, or is this API management going to be exposed to a virtual network? Is it going to be private? So in this case, you know, API management supports many configurations and many deployment models. API management can be completely public. This is the default behavior, but also API management could be, let me get back here. API management could be living within a virtual network and with a public IP. So this is what we call the external configuration. With this configuration, we can do a hybrid solution and the API management can call a VPN or express route communication to your own data center. We have another option that we call the internal, and this is a completely private API management that lives in a virtual network in Azure, and it can only be accessed by your own data center or by other networks that are connected to this virtual network. Normally, this is what we see in high compliance scenarios, banks, financial services, where they don't want the API management to be accessible through internet, just to private communication. And finally, we have another option, and this is available since last year. And this is what we call a distributed API management. And again, remember, API management comes with these three components. But now this gateway component can be run as a container. And you could run the gateway in your own data center and other clouds. And the configuration is going to be completely federated by Azure. So you can expose some configuration centrally from Azure. You can say, I want to expose this API in my data center or this API in AWS. So you can do a distributed API management. And this functionality is called the self-hosted gateway. Okay. So you can run this in a Kubernetes cluster in any machine where you can run Docker containers. Okay. So this is something about the networking planning, okay? The developer portal, as we were mentioning, right? The developer portal is this web catalog where you can expose APIs, okay? But also, this is a fully powered CMS where you can think about something like a WordPress, where you can change the styling, you can add your own templates, as we showed some examples, right? So this is the developer portal. This is completely open source also. It's powered by a framework called Paperbits, JavaScript framework. So you can also grab this, change it, if you want, and run it yourself. Or you can just tell Microsoft, run it for me, and we can run the developer portal for you. So it's completely open source and open to extend and modify for you, okay? This is the developer portal. Then, once we have added some APIs to our API management, we have activated the developer portal. Another thing that requires some planning and some thought is what we call products, okay? These concepts varies depending the API gateway solution, right? Basically, products are a way to bundle APIs, okay? So inside Azure API Management, we can have like a product one, and this product could bundle multiple APIs, and we could have a product two that could bundle another APIs. So normally a way to explain this is like, this could be also tiers. We could have like a starter product, and we can have like an unlimited product, okay? So we're going to explain this. And the user basically subscribes to a product. When a user subscribes to this product, they're going to get two keys. These keys are called subscription. And then with that keys, the user can call the API, okay? This is also explained in the workshop. So when you run through it, we have this part that is called product management, where you're going to create some products. And basically this is going to look like this. So let's say I'm a developer, and there will be this page that says products. I can subscribe to this product. So there will be a product that is going to allow me to do 5 calls per minute, and then there will be an unlimited product. So if I subscribe to these products, I will get these 2 keys per product. And I always get 2 keys because this way I can regenerate those keys, and I can do self-service. So I can refresh these keys, right? So then when I subscribe to these products, I can go and try the APIs, right? So let's say we're going to try the Color API. Okay, so this is with the developer portal. So you can see here, I can choose my subscription key. Let me see. I will try another API that's with the starter product. Let me see, basic calculator or the Star Wars. I think I should be able to call Star Wars. Okay, so I'm gonna call get people. Yeah, so I can choose what product do I want to call this API, okay? So in this case, I'm gonna try the starter product, okay? So I'm gonna send one request. Okay. I'm gonna do another one. Basically, I will try to hit this 5 times limit, okay? This API, it's a little bit, has some latency, but this is a third call. This is the fourth call. Then I'm gonna do a fifth one. And then it's going to fail, right? Because that product has some business logic, right? Which it's going to limit my calls to 5 calls per minute, okay? So let me see. Yeah, and then it starts to fail, okay? But if I change to another product, unlimited, I will be able to keep calling the API, okay? So products are very useful because you can bundle the same API, but with different behaviors. So for example, if people are starting to onboard themselves to your APIs and you don't want them to hammer your underlying backend, you can use the product to create like a starter product. And then also you can use products to do some monetization, okay? So this is the product concept inside Azure API Management, okay? It's a way to bundle APIs and also change the behavior of those APIs depending on what product is the user consuming, okay? So this is a concept that we use and can also help you structure the way you're going to expose your APIs to different types of consumers, okay? Then there's another thing that we also have to do in planning is that once we do this API gateway pattern, we can change the behavior of some APIs without having to touch the underlying APIs, okay? All API gateways support this. In the case of Azure, we call it Azure API Management Policies, okay? In the Azure solution, these API policies are written using XML, okay? Other solutions use Java, JavaScript, and I think others use XML also. So we have a built-in library of policies that you can use out of the box, okay? So let me open this to see if there are any questions. Yeah. So for example, if you want to change the behavior of the request, you want to add some headers, some extra headers, you can do that through policies. If you want to change the response coming out of a backend without having to touch the backend, you can search and replace values. You can add caching to some operations. You can do conditional operations. You can do like ifs inside this gateway, because the gateway is also a compute unit. So we can do some operations there, okay? So in the case of Azure API Management, one of the things that we have to plan correctly is where are we going to put these policies, okay? In Azure API Management, we can add policies at a global level, and this is going to affect all APIs and all products. We can also use the product scope to set some policies there. So for example, the rate limiting normally you set that at the product level. And then we can also set some policies at the API level and finally at the operation level. We're going to show you some demos of how this works, right? So this is how we normally do. Also these policies can be extended if there is no policy for your behavior. You can use a subset of C# to write some code and change the behavior also, and write your own business logic, right? So we support some C# snippets of code inside the policies, and we're going to show how this works, right? This is also, again, in the workshop, we have this challenge called policy expressions. So once you have added the APIs here, okay, let's say we are going to try one of these APIs, okay? So remember, let's say basic calculator, we're going to show you a transformation operation, okay? So the basic calculator, we can go here, and basically here's where I'm going to add those policies. You can see that I have these policies here. And these policies are written in XML, okay? So let's start with caching policy, okay? Yeah, we're going to show that first. So I have a front end here, and this is going to start calling my API gateway, right? And it's going to ask for some colors, and it's going to render those colors as lights, okay? This is part of the workshop. If you do the workshop, you're going to get this result. So first, I'm going to call the API with a starter key, okay? So here, for example, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to call the API, okay? I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to change the key, the unlimited. So here, I'm going to call the API gateway using an unlimited product, okay? So you can see here, this is calling the API, and the API is going to render the slides, right? So this random operation is not as random as you think, right? Basically, it's just going to give us light blue, blue, and dark blue, okay? But this is how the API works, okay? So now let's say we want to change the behavior of that API. We want to use a caching policy for it to return the same value during 15 seconds or 10 seconds, okay? So with this, we can go to Azure API Management, and we can use this policy functionality, okay? So I'm going to click here, and I commented that policy, okay? And I'm going to say, cache the response during 10 seconds, okay? So I'm going to save this. This is going to be applied to the gateway. And now we're going to reset this, okay? And we're going to call again. So now, we should be able to see the same color coming during 10 seconds. Here, you can see light blue. Light blue is coming during 10 seconds, okay? Now, blue. Blue is coming during 10 seconds, okay? Blue again during 10 seconds. So I'm changing the behavior of the API without having to touch the underlying API, okay? So we have many policies. For example, we can do another sample here. Now we're going to change the color, right? Let's say I don't like blue, so I want to change that blue for other color, okay? So I can come here again, and we have a policy that's called find and replace, okay? And this is going to find a string and replace it for another string, right? So now we're going to change the colors from blue to green, okay? So we're going to click here, save, and we're going to go back. Remember that the caching is in place, so we can still see some blue, but now, yeah, it's changed, right? So now this is green. The caching is also in place. It could be changed to a light green eventually or dark green. But yeah, this is, this is how the policy engine works. We're going to show you another policies that we can do, right? So for example, we can also do a mocking API. So for example, there's a mocking policy. So I can create operations that are not ready yet. Okay, so for example, in this operation, get film, I added as part of the Star Wars API, and this is not ready. Basically, I'm responding the same thing, okay? But the gateway can work like this facade, and I can design new APIs, use this policy, and when the underlying API is ready, I can just forward to the underlying backend, okay? So this is also, let's see, we're going to call get film, okay? And we get this sample response, like this sample contract that developers can start working with. When I have the underlying API ready, I can just forward to the physical backend, okay? So this is the power of policies, okay? Policies allow me to change the behavior of these APIs in many places, and there's no need to touch the underlying APIs. And also policies, remember, can be added on multiple scopes. I have this global scope. So for example, I could say, all the APIs are only going to allow this origin. If someone else calls the API, it's going to be rejected. All the APIs have to do some logging. I can add also policies at the API level and also at the operation level, okay? So this is the power of policies, and this also needs some planning to do correctly, okay? So let's see, any questions there? Okay, we're going to move forward. So another important part is, right, once we do all this planning, we plan the networking, we plan the APIs, we choose what policies we're going to add, and we have this very good architecture, then we're ready to deploy, okay? And here, in the case of Azure, there are many ways to deploy the Azure API management. Since it's a cloud solution, we can use, for example, infrastructure as code with Terraform, with our own language that we call resource manager templates, or also another one that we call Bicep. We can use scripts, bash scripts, PowerShell scripts, APIs calls, or also our own SDKs to deploy the Azure API management. We have multiple options there. And then another important part, in security, it's all over the place, right? In all the phases, how we're going to secure the API management. So the first thing that you have to understand in the case of API management is each layer it's secure independently. The developer portal can be secured with a single sign-on with your identity services. And the gateway can be secured in many ways. For example, the gateway can be secured with things like adding a WAF on top of it, like a firewall on top of it. Also, we can use modern authentication authorization like OAuth2. We can validate JOTs and see if the signature is correct, if that JOT is created by your authorization server, if the scope is correct, if the claims are correct. We can also ask for a client certificate, or also we can filter by IPs. And this is all done through the Azure policies, through the Azure API management policies. Then we can also secure the gateway to your backend, right? And on here, we can use MTLS, certificates, provide a mutual certificate. Also, we can do OAuth on behalf of protocol, IP filter, or private networking, okay? So we're going to show you how this works. And again, this is also part of the workshop. We're going through the workshop very quickly, right? But here in the workshop, we have an exercise in how to do a basic JOT validation or connect with a OAuth2 authorization server like Azure AD, okay? So in this case, I'm going to show you how this works. So I'm going to grab an operation here. Let's say add two integers, right? So here, for example, again, this is going to be done through a policy written in XML. And the policy that validates the JOT, it's basically called it validate JOT. it has multiple parameters and configuration. So for example, if I call this API without sending a JOT, it's going to be rejected, right? So let's do an addition, and we're going to choose a product, unlimited, okay, and we're going to do the call, okay? So unauthorized, okay? Because this policy is asking for a JOT token, and that JOT token needs to have a valid signature, okay? So I need to add here this authorization, better, and then I need to inject the token here. So JOTs are very interesting because they are basically contain these three areas: the header, the payload, and then the signature. And then we get this hash that we can send to the API. Okay, so I created a manual JOT in this case, and I'm going to send it to the API. Okay. So in this case, basically what the API gateway is going to check is that the signature is the same. Okay, so we're going to try this, and we're going to send this information, and we can see that now we're good, right? And if we go to how this is implemented, again, this is done through the Azure API Management policies that you can change the behavior, right? So here you can see that this validate JOT is going to check for a signing key. Signing key has to be the same as this value, okay? And also we can check that the token in the payload part contains some claims. It needs to have an admin claim, and this needs to be true. So we can see here that, for example, this token has this value correct, okay? So this is a simple way to validate JOTs. The ideal way is that we validate JOTs provided by an authorization server with Azure API Management. So this is completely possible. And we also have like a request certificate, so we can ask for a JOT and also for a client certificate, okay? So we have all these possibilities in the security world with the policies again, okay? So let's keep moving forward to take a look at some more topics. So this is a little bit of security. Another important part, of this maturity model and the workshop is that we need to be able to see what's happening in the API gateway, right? We need observability. Specifically to Azure API Management, we have many ways to do observability in the gateway. There's a built-in reports out of the box in the Azure API Management, but there are also other services that are more capable, right? We have two that we call Azure Monitor and Application Insights. And then also we have another feature that is very useful, in which the API Management can create events in an event store called Event Hub, and someone can subscribe to those events and do real-time reporting, processing, or whatever you need, right? So we have many choices here, and we're going to show some of them here in the workshop, okay? So in the workshop, you just go here to analytics and monitoring, and you're going to see how to configure 3 of these options, okay? Now, if we go to this already working, we can see how this works, right? So we're going to leave this calls up there. So this is the out-of-the-box reporting solution of Azure API Management. Here you can see, okay, failed calls, successful calls, and you can go deeper, right? What APIs are being called, what operations are the ones that are being the most called, who is calling me, with what subscription key. So you get basic information, okay? But then we have this other solution that we call Application Insights, that it's more capable, that it's going to give us, it can give us real-time information. So we're going to see this, okay? So here, for example, I can see some live metrics. Here, for example, I can see how much compute is my gateway using, the request rate. I'm having like 8 calls per second, latency, failure rate. So this is real time. So we're going to stop here the calls. Okay. And this should be updating very quickly. Yeah, you can see calls came to 0. And we can call it again. and we can see this coming back up. Okay, so this is more complete solution, and you can see real time. Also, it has another great features. For example, you can see the availability of your gateway if this has gone down in any time, and you can also calculate your SLA of your own solution, right? So in this case, my gateway, it's been completely up all the time, so it's green, and I can also trigger some alerts. If some events happen, send me an email, send me a message. So this is a very important aspect, right? To know what's happening within your API management gateway. And then another important aspect, once we have this in place, we did a good planning, we deployed the API management, we secure it, we know what's happening inside the API management, then we can start improving the operations, right? And one of the things, or one of the features that we can use is that our API is going to change in time, right? There's going to be a life cycle, there's going to be minor change, breaking changes. So API management has features for that. In that case, we call it versions and revisions. So for example, if we do a minor change, we can create a revision, yeah. And if we do breaking changes, we can use versions, okay. These versions and revisions, for the versions, you can decide if the version is going to be specified as a header, as part of the path, or in other places as a query parameter also. And revisions, you can also specify if the consumer of the API can choose the revision, or basically it's going to be transparent for them, okay? So this is a feature here. We're going to show it. This is also in the workshop. Yeah, if you go here to versions and revisions, you can see how to set this up out of the box, yeah. And then this is going to look something like this. So for example, I have the Star Wars API. And the Star Wars API, for example, if I add more fields or values to the responses, it's not a breaking change. So I can keep adding revisions, right? I can have multiple revisions available, and I can have one current revision. So here you can see I have all these revisions, and the 4 revision is the one currently available. This is also going to be shown to the developers in the developer portal, right? If they come here, they will see this change log, and they can see all the changes that the API publisher has added to them to this API. Okay, so this is the revisions. Then if we have a breaking change, we can create a version. Okay, and the difference here is that there you can set where the version value is going to be specified. It could be as part of the path, it could be as a header. So in this case, for example, this is part of the path, okay? But we can have other options available for you. And this is also going to show for the developer here. The developer can also choose what version do they want to try, right? So if they want to try version 2, you can see that this is going to be added to the operation, okay? So that's also a feature that is very, very important, okay? So we're getting to the last parts of this. And another important aspect is, right, how to do CICD, right? Let's say I will have 2 environments, 2 API management environments. How can I grab the configuration from the developer environment and push it to the production environment? So in this case, what we recommend customers is to have 2 instances of API management. And also, in the case of development, API developers, they need to write the API using OpenAPI specification. They also provide their policies. And with this, the API publishers can create Azure infrastructure as code, and this infrastructure as code can be passed to multiple environments, okay? So here are many ways to do this. For example, if you can also use Terraform for infrastructure as code. You can use the bash scripts, the CLIs. In our case, in Azure API Management, we also have a tool for you that is called the AKS APIM DevOps Toolkit, yeah, that can extract the configuration from one Azure API Management and create this infrastructure as code for you, okay? So we're going to show this very quickly. So let's say management, I did the UI. Now I want to extract this configuration and deploy it to another API management, okay? So here we can use this tooling. We call it the API Management DevOps Kit, and this is going to be able to extract the configuration, and this configuration can be deployed to other API management instances. And this is going to look something like this. for example, we have this toolkit, and basically you just extract the configuration of my API management, and this is going to create these JSON files. You just need to have .NET installed. And this is going to extract the log configuration from your API management. And here you can see, these are all my APIs, the basic calculator APIs, the Star Wars API, Color APIs. This are my backends, my authorization servers. And this configuration, these JSON files, I can apply it to another API management. And I will be automating, this could be automated with GitHub Actions, GitLab, Azure DevOps. And that way you can move configuration from one environment to another one. Another choice would be like if you created everything using Terraform, so you can have also your Terraform scripts where you define your APIs. And also, for example, you can define your policies here, everything. So that's also another way to do it, right? We have the DevOps kit, or you can just start writing infrastructure as code from the beginning using Terraform, okay? So with this, we're getting to the end of this session. So we can leave some space for questions maybe. And again, these are some resources available for you. The API Management Workshop, where you can see all these demos that I have shown, and you can deploy it yourself. We also have this link, API Management Love, where you can see other public resources that we have available for you. And basically, thank you very much for your attention. And just remember that, the main thing that I want you to take from this is that maturity model also, that's very important for you to be successful. Remember, for a successful implementation, if you follow these phases, you can really be successful, right? Instead of deploying first and seeing everything breaking, do some good planification, plan for the networking, plan for the security, and also very important, plan for the people, right? Create teams and create processes that are going to allow you to be successful with your API gateway pattern inside your company. Okay. So that's everything I had to share for you. And remember, you have the link to the API Management Lab. If you want to run the workshop, this is very polished content that we have polished in the last 2 years. And you can run this workshop. You can activate an Azure trial, and you're good to go with that. Also, if you want to contribute, feel free to do it on GitHub. And that's all that I had for you. Any questions in the chat? Something that you would like to know, from our experience? Let's see. Let's give some time. Okay, so those are the assets that we have for you, and we are hoping you enjoy the rest of the API days, and hope to see you physically in the next years. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day and have a good sessions.